Welcome back. You're watching We the Nation. We are exploring the mess that South Africa finds itself in. How did we get here? Are we to blame? A number of ideas coming up. The country every day, I mean, you look left, you look right, is facing a number of problems. Sometimes it just feels overwhelming. It's insurmountable. I mean, our unemployment rate, for example, is one of those in the world that is not going down anytime soon. If you look at the numbers there for yourself, you see 32.9% of, that's the unemployment rate. That's not the expanded definition of, if you expand that, you get into the 40-something percentages. We have 2.1 million hungry households every day in our country. And we understand from the industry itself, 10 million tons of food wasted in this country every year. That's quite a big chunk. And then look at our economy. It's not going anywhere. The forecast for this year, according to Stats SA, according to National Treasury, 0.9%. You cannot create jobs when you grow at that level. And we've got 40% of homes that have no books. I mean, there's no literacy in this country's challenge, and 80% of our children cannot read for meaning, particularly from grade 4. And if you've not been counting, I'll tell you, since the beginning of the year, we've had 14,534 blackout hours, thanks to Eskom. So the energy crisis continues to be with us. And look at the next set of numbers. Murder rate in this country, the last stats that were given for the previous quarter, 6,290 people killed in 90 days. That's shocking, and we're not even at war like they are in the Ukraine. Now, you've got 50% of our water is bad. According to the latest blue and green drop reports, 50% of our water is not of a quality that can be drunk very safely. And crime has been mentioned here. We've got more than 5,100 cars which were hijacked in 90 days in the last number. So there you are. The numbers don't lie. So what do? We said we're not to blame, but we're partly to blame. How do we fix the system, Songezo?
So then the first thing we do is to recognize that next year's election, or next year, 2024, is as important as 1994. And that means we need changes politically, we need changes to how we are led and how we lead, all of us, and it also means we decide how we're going to create a just society. So what do I mean by this? The first thing we need to do is to recognize that the leadership is here in the room. One of the things we harm ourselves with is thinking that leaders are other people, a special breed of people.
That Messiah that gentleman was talking
messiahs.
About. Yes.
Almost everyone in this room is a leader. Why? Because they've decided to take responsibility beyond themselves and do work in the community or in their area to make a difference in people's lives. For the viewers at home, I want to ask, who would you rather sits in Parliament? Someone who comes one day and says, vote for me? Or someone here who is already active in the community and is doing the work? South Africans must stop using their own resources to do the work of the government they've elected and choose to be the government.
Okay. So, ma'am, say your name, please. You had your hand up earlier, and who you represent?
My name is Tembegile Makubele, and I'm from the Public Service Commission. I don't know, should I start with the first question?
You can start where you choose. You can contribute.
Okay. I think the citizens, including myself, is to blame. We got used to being in a system where it was saying, yes, sir. Then when the new era came in 1994, we fold our hands and we still continue waiting for the government to say, how are we going to do it? Whereas it is our responsibility to make sure that we put systems in place that are going to still assist us. I mean, take, for instance, a house in a village. I come from a village. We're used to seeing our parents and our grandparents building those hut houses. But now people fold their hands, let those houses fall, waiting for a RDP. So we've let the government be, that place.
And that needs to change. I mean,
exactly.
That's what you're saying.
The behavioral change is required. Mm-hmm. The statistics that we're talking about that you have flagged on your screen, like, for instance, murdering each other. Sometimes when you go into those details of the statistics, it indicates that sometimes it's because of disagreement. And that shows the fact that we are not tolerating each other. So the need for a behavioral change where the constitutional values and principles comes in is quite important. But where is the citizens educating each other in terms of the Ubuntu and all these things that will make each other, work together and be able to tolerate each other.
Pass the mic to the young lady. I want to hear the youth. Please pass the mic to the back. I want to hear the youth in the house. It's very important. It's their future we're talking about after all.
Hi, Babden.
Yes.
My name is Dina Twala, and I am representing eNCA Setu, which is an organization in Alexandra. So my view with this whole situation in our country is that, yes, the community, it's no use to point hands and blame and say, okay, it's your fault that you did A, B, and C. Now, there's one thing that my father, Ubab Twala, likes to say, is that let there be room for forgiveness. Let there be room for forgiveness indeed. Let us take the lead now and the baton. I mean, our organization, so far, we've managed to take 400 kids to Gold Reef City for an outing from Alexandra, some who had never even been to an excursion before. We feed 700 people on a daily basis, and this is through us as the community members in the grassroots accompanying and partnering with the private sector.
So, I mean, you're an example of efforts on the ground of let's help each other, let's do something, let's build, let's change things. Yes, ma'am, please say your name and who you represent.
Good evening.
I think you're a biker.
Yes, I am. Suli Mutsweni. My bike name is Boss Lady. We are from Bikers, Female Bikers Forum, an organization that is made up of female bikers in South Africa. We have close to 150 members. We took the initiative to go to Amanskraal to donate over 500,000 liters of water from our own pockets. And because we've realized that as South Africans, we are used to being nannied. We are in a nanny state. We were told that we'll get things for free. Today, when you approach a young man and offer them an opportunity, if the amount of money is not your government-regulated daily rate, they do not want to take up that opportunity. We have an issue with porous borders. Our system, as we inherited it in 1994, could not handle the 30-odd million South African citizens 30 years ago. Now we are doubled that number, not even counting the amount of legal and illegal immigrants in the country. So if we are now going to say we inherited a sinking ship, we knew. It has never been a secret that the resources that were built by the apartheid government could only manage to cater for 6 million odd people. Now there's 66 million people who need to use the same infrastructure. What are we doing about it?
Yeah, that's the point we're going to discuss. I mean, as we carry on to say, what are we doing about it to stop being nannied? The mic, somebody had a mic there? Jenkins, please say your name, who you represent.
Thank you, Tatemani. My name is Lawrence Ruele. I represent the Alexandra Youth Swimming Academy, as well as the Kasif Family Library, which I founded, along with my wife next to me. Now, we face a number of issues. I come from Alexandra. We deal with children. We work closely with Linda Twala. I'm a leopard of Putadi Chaba, meaning that we're part of the committee that works with the community. Now, firstly, we can't keep blaming the government if we're ungovernable ourselves. I live in Alex. Alex is filthy. Why? It's not the government. The government doesn't live there. It's the people there that live there. You're
the one who's littering around, not the government.
Thank you. But also, the man from, sorry to say the man, gentleman from AfriForum touched on the fact that it's a look at your own street type of thing. Go Alex, we do that. We can point out our street and say our street is the best. Why? Community involvement. But at the same time, where we involve the government is where we speak to our councillor, but we also speak to corporate South Africa. So we have a triangle that is working, which is the community in their own regard, and then the corporate sector, and then the government. And how we're doing it correctly is that we are transparent. South Africa. We don't know how to tell the truth, and now we tiptoe over issues because you're scared of being cancelled on social media or what. So now we just need to go back to what we are as South Africans, what we truly are, and just focus on those issues.
And tell the truth and work together in community. Say you've had your hand up for some time. Please say your name and who you represent.
Thank you. I'm Sivan Naidu, and I represent the Active Citizens Movement, which was established about 7 years ago. And I'm glad to be here. I think quintessentially, we need to understand where we've come from. We've come from not just an apartheid past, but we come from 300 years of colonialism or imperialism of a special type, and that we were able to defeat the monster that apartheid was, and we coalesced around a program, and that program was the Freedom Charter that was adopted on the 26th of June 1955, which the gentleman alluded to earlier, Muntu. And what does the Freedom Charter tell us?
So do we need a new
Constitution?
do we need a new national kind of charter or commitment
Absolutely.
or pledge?
So the Constitution, our current Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, is premised on the Freedom Charter, that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, that all national groups shall enjoy equal rights, that they shall be free and compulsory education for all. The land shall be shared amongst those who work it.
But those things are not happening.
Those things are not happening. So I'm taking us back to where we come from, the momentous struggle that defeated apartheid, the monster that it was. So today we have a democratic government, 28 years into our democracy. What we're lacking today is active citizenry, which we had in the dark and turbulent days of apartheid.
I would like to explore what does active citizens look like as we continue. Not now. Please give the mic to the gentleman on the with the red at the back there. Sorry, you also had your hand up for quite some time.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Braden. My name is Kamukhelo Lekhari from Tsokan Civic Movement. I think we need to accept as the citizens of South Africa that the governing party is done and dusted. I think the minute we start to accept that, that's where maybe we'll get a wake-up call. Hence why we said, even the name of our party, we said Tsugang. I'm going to give an example from where I come from in Rustenburg. Because of, the governing party inherited some of, this old infrastructure. For argument's sake, what is happening in Rustenburg, you find yourself, the municipality is patching the 100-year-old pipe each and every time. Now, most of the water that is leaking, we spent almost millions of rand patching this old pipe. Now, as I'm talking to you, there's a place in Rustenburg, they call it Gelode Park, where they pay rates each and every month, but they can spend around 3 weeks without water. But when we ask, and there's this thing also which I want to raise, we must also accept that this cadre deployment is killing us. You can never have an infrastructure MMC who can even write, but you say that person will lead you, will make sure. I want to highlight this thing. Our president hired a minister, Sputla, under infrastructure. Within 6 months, he takes him to electricity, as if infrastructure is not important anymore.
When you mention cadre deployment, I mean, you vote for the people who are in power, as Songes reminded us earlier. And what do? I mean, they are in power because they were elected to be in power.
Look, the first question, but January, but we depend on government. I think to a certain extent we must agree about that, because our people can forget what happened 4 years back because of food parcel. Now we need to conscientize these people. This is what is happening because of our people are dependent on this thing. How can you sell your vote because of food parcel? Now this is the challenge that we are facing. We need to educate our people, especially on the political space, because our people, they don't know this thing.
Please pass the mic to the gentleman in front of you. He's also had his hand up for some time, sir. We'll come to you just now. Please say your name and who you represent.
Hi, my name is Friedrich Slabbert. I'm from the South African Institution of Civil Engineers.
Infrastructure.
We are a voluntary association talking about the infrastructure, but the focus here is really on the voluntary part. We have about 15,000 members, of which about 7,000 are professionals with lots of experience. So what are we saying could be or should be done? but you can't say what should be done if you don't measure that. So on the basis of that, we've published for the fourth time since 2006, the infrastructure report card.
It didn't look good, eh?
And this time it didn't look good for various reasons. And that is really why we are saying, let us use that document and influence the decision makers and the politicians and the owners of the infrastructure. And when I say owners, I refer to the various authorities. Just for interest, if we just add the municipalities and transport authorities and state-owned entities,
but they are so dysfunctional.
There are more than 300 different entities looking after the infrastructure. So how do we deal with that? We need to, from a professional side,
play
our role
in helping,
and talk
in helping to fix
and motivate
things.
And show where the problems are and find solutions.
Yes, say your name and who you represent.
Brother, my name is Janki Matlala from Alex. I think Alex were many here. One thing that I wanted to say maybe before the gentleman from Northwest is that we are from the organization called Arkhanyeng Lesedi Development Initiative, which we clean in the Joske River. Why I'm saying this one is that the Joske River goes to Northwest, and the way it is polluted, I'm very scared to talk next to this gentleman because of they are using the same river at Northwest, and that one gives me scared, and becoming me too worried again. And also on the statistics to say 50% in terms of
the quality of water.
So that means that statistic is not correctly because of the way the Joske River it is. So what I'm trying to say now is that it takes a dedicated people or maybe a group of people that wanted to see the environment being consciously clean.
So you are leading there.
I'm leading with close to, I think the whole team in Joske River, I think we are close to 350. Some we call it water warriors, and some they are from the organization. They are dedicated to clean the river on each and every day. But the question is, we are failing because of the dumping site. Alexander doesn't have a landfill site, whereby everybody is dumping at Joske River.
Now, whose responsibility is it to give you a landfill site? The municipality?
The municipality is failing us because the municipality was supposed to identify the nearest landfill site, but they never done that. So why I'm saying that, also remember that we also getting the entrepreneurs, the people that the guys, or maybe a man who got family that wanted to put bread on the table, then he's got a truck. Then that truck is not licensed. Then he's getting a contract somewhere at the suburbs at Santin to take rubbles. He doesn't take that rubbles to landfill site where it's far away.
He takes it to Alex.
Exactly.
Okay. Sorry. I don't want us to dwell on one issue. I mean, this is a bigger issue. No, pass the mic to the gentleman in front. Sorry, he also had his hand up. Dr. Kingsley Makubela.
Thank you, Braden. I think there's one thing that we all have to recognize and manage it. It's good as a civil society, different groups, to think that we can change things. We have to make a contribution. But the bigger problem is on building the capacity of the state. Remember, the state is an instrument of security and prosperity. The problem that we are having, Braden, and moving forward that we need to manage, if you look at all our elected officials, each time they walk into office, the first thing they talk about is who caused the problem. They spend a lot of time defining who caused the problem. And I usually say, we did not elect you to go and tell us who caused the problem. We elected you to go and solve the problem. And we are going to evaluate you on the basis of solving the problem. And I think once we move away from really looking at who caused the problem to solving the problem, we'll be able to deal with it. And this is the checks and balance between the elected officials and us who elected them. Do we hold them accountable to solving the problem? Do we evaluate them on the basis of the manifestos? They'll start to emerge very soon, soon as you come up with yours, I know, to tell us what you're going to do. No manifesto is going to tell you we are going to define who caused the problem. I mean, this morning I was astounded to see in the SCOPA committee, the brigadier who's responsible, who apparently has a lot of information with respect to what's going on at ESCOM, could not turn up because of fear of safety. And I asked myself, if a whole brigadier cannot turn up at
in Parliament. Yeah.
What happens to ordinary citizens who ought to be witnesses and so on? So it's the system that we have to correct. And I think we need to spend a lot of time in beefing up and building the system.
Yeah, state capacity, state system, but as we heard from Reverend Frank Shikane recently, the new chairperson of the governing party's Integrity Commission, the criminals are running us. So maybe that's why that brigadier was scared. We will carry on to explore what more really can we be doing? A number of people who are sitting here on We the Nation in this episode are doing stuff in their communities and wonderful things that are being done, but more can be done. It's time to roll up our sleeves. That's the message, and not depend on somebody else. And it's also very important for us to hold those in office accountable.